innovation, research, and entrepreneurship. And as a B school, I always believe it's our moral responsibility to train and nurture the budding entrepreneurs of the country. And that's what the country demands as well. And we are sticking to that. So no doubt, this program, which was started in a very small way, almost 5-6 years back, today it has become one of a flagship program to our students. We organize a lot of activities under the IRE banner. We organize workshops, physical. We organize virtual workshops. We have podcast. And of late, in the last 1.5 years, we have been able to touch around a lot of experts across the globe who have significantly contributed to one or the other ingredient of entrepreneurship. And I'm all happy to mention this. We have hosted 75 plus IRE Talks online from across the globe, who have contributed significantly, as I was mentioning, to the different parts which can be linked, entrepreneurship. And I'm so happy today that I remember connecting to my good friend, Mr. CJ Marks, almost a year back. And we had a good chat. Thanks to social media platform, we stay connected. We see each other's performances. We see each other's life. That's how it should also be. I happened to connect Mr. CJ a couple of weeks back again. And I said, CJ, this time I want you. Last time we missed it for some reason, but this time I really need you, because what I found that his strength can be very well aligned to our requirement at the IRE Talks. So we have beautifully coined this today's session as the power of entrepreneurial communication. And I don't think there can be any better person than Mr. CJ Marks to talk about this, because his contribution to this aspect is significant. For those who don't know, he is having over 25 years of experience in education, including in elite institutions in California and Japan. He is a TEDx coach and a team trainer for global events. He has organized a lot of events. He's an experienced Toastmaster and is a global keynote speaker. It's such an honor, CJ, to have you with us. He's also the instructor at Konan University from Kobe, Japan. Well, this for the audiences, we have made it different today. It's not a typical PowerPoint presentation and then we take up the questions, but we have tried to make it as a panel discussion today. I have a set of questions. Well, these questions were already received by me from some of the students that we want to have this question be addressed by Mr. CJ. And today, on behalf of all the students out here, I would take up those questions individually. At the same time, we are planning from some other sessions as well, which would be CJ 2.0. After this session, probably in the next couple of months, we have another very important topic that we would be addressing all of you. But as of now, I would keep that as a secret, but that's something bigger than what is this. This is just a start. This is an introduction. And I think this has come in the right time. So, Mr. CJ, on behalf of the students out here, on behalf of my faculties, the management team, I extend my heartfelt welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's the late evening there in Japan. It's your personal time, but you have agreed to this. That shows your commitment towards, the students' fraternity. I really appreciate that. Welcome to you.
Professor Guru, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I am grateful, I am humbled, and I am honored to be here with GIBS, with you particularly. As you said, we go back a while, and it's good to finally be able to work it out and be able to be here for the students, for the people. So yeah, let's just jump right into it, man. I'm ready for the questions.
Fantastic. Let's take it out. All right. So we have coined this session beautifully as the power of entrepreneurial communication. So CJ, what, according to you, is a layman's definition of entrepreneurial communication?
Excellent question to start the session. I think the first thing to really focus on is the second part of that entrepreneurial communication, that being communication. I mean, first and foremost, if we're going to be successful, however you define success in any aspect of life, be it management, be it hospitality, be it education, whatever the case is, it is imperative to have competent communication skills. That's just base. for the most part. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, you're out there, a lot of times your livelihood depends on your ability to actually be able to engage with the crowd, to communicate your message. Therefore, communication is paramount as an entrepreneur in terms of getting funding, in terms of getting interest, in terms of galvanizing people under you. The ability to communicate your ideas and thoughts orally, verbally, and even in writing. Without that, I don't know if you could call yourself an entrepreneur, simply put. You have to be able to communicate if you are going to even entertain the thought of being an entrepreneur.
So, CJ, it's not just related to entrepreneurship. I mean, it's
Mhm.
no matter what, in which profession you belong to. Do you think this is the most key skill set that one individual should possess, no matter which domain, which industry, or which profession you belong to? You agree with this?
I would definitely say, yeah, communicate. Now, let's to establish something early on. Of course, I realize as a person living in a different country. I live in Japan, and the Japanese language is not easy to negotiate, navigate through. So let's put aside linguistic challenges. Granted, they are definitely relative and they're definitely applicable, but of course, there's if you're dealing in a second, third, fourth language, you're going to have communication issues, challenges. This is a given. That being said, that being true, just making the effort to be able to communicate. Let's say you're operating in your first language, right? You have to make the effort to be able to communicate. So to answer your question succinctly, yes, I would say, of course, understanding people, which is a really important part of communication, but simply having somewhat competent communication skills, yes, throughout any field, any sector, any industry, it's a given. I mean, if you're going to show up to any social networking event, if you're going to have attention on you, even if you're not galvanizing the crowd, even if you're not really the center of attention, if nothing else, to be able to level for any professional.
Very true. CJ, you've been a corporate trainer, you have been an instructor at university, you have seen all sorts of professionals. You have seen entrepreneurs, you have seen students, you have seen corporate
Mhm.
professionals. Having understood this importance of communication skills very seriously, why do we think we make or we fail in this aspect? Do you think there is some gap that exists? Do you think that there is a lack of seriousness in having this ingredient very strongly inbuilt on us?
I do. I do. I mean, some things could be cultural. So depending on our cultural perspective, again, living in Japan, individual communication is often sacrificed at the expense of the group, meaning that you communicating and expressing your individual thoughts and opinions and feelings, that's not what's primarily encouraged and enforced in Japan and other East Asian countries as well. So sometimes it could be social, it could be systematic, it could be how we're brought up in the school system, right? Sometimes you're taught to suppress what you think and what your feelings are for the benefit of the group. And if that's how you're operating, it can be difficult to have confidence in communicating, right? That's one aspect. Second, I think oftentimes glossophobia, the general fear of
Yeah.
public speaking, I think that grips us and it grips us and makes us think we can't, we just can't do it, you know? And oftentimes it's having the confidence to successful experiences to realize you don't have to be a masterful communicator as long as you're making the effort to communicate your thoughts. So oftentimes what I found is people just don't really learn these skills and or they aren't given the proper reinforcement to go out there and to try to improve themselves as communicators.
So, having said that, what do you think the common mistakes, communication mistakes, I would say, these young entrepreneurs make in their journey?
Speaking more than listening, meaning that all, and not just entrepreneurs, but oftentimes people have an idea that they want to get out,
Mhm.
and they may think it's the best idea since sliced bread, or it's the best idea under the sun. And in a rush to be able to get it out, oftentimes aren't really reading the room or the audience or listening to what's needed or asked of them. So, succinctly and concisely, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is
Agree.
speaking more than listening. Because communication is about listening and speaking. I mean, it's been said many times. We have two ears and one mouth for a reason. So we're expected to do more listening than we are speaking. But oftentimes, many young entrepreneurs don't seem to understand that. And people fall in
Absolutely.
love with the sound of their own voice. Yeah.
You think there is a misconception here. You think there's a misconception. Moment you say communication, people only talk about, your words, your body language, etc. I hardly see people talking about your listening skills. What do you say on this? The listening skills.
Listening is just as important, if not more so important than communicating. Because if you're just speaking the whole time, and you're not even really making the effort to be tuned into if your message is being received, you've probably already lost your audience. You've probably already lost your audience. It could be an audience of one, it could be an audience of many. But if you're just thinking about getting your words out, right, this is what I call bloviating or pontificating, that's not communication. That's just talking at somebody or at a group of people. That's not effective communication at all.
So consider I am a student. I have just completed my master's program. This is a question on behalf of all my students out here. And I'm on the verge of starting my own venture. I want to start my own startup. What are those key communication skills that I would want to imbibe in myself? Apart from, of course, the listening skills, what you mentioned. What are the other top-notch skills which is linked to communication that I need to, I don't say master, that I need to begin with, that I need to be expert with?
Excellent question. Well, very seldom can I prescribe or recommend or suggest one or two or three skills that are going to be encompassing for everybody. But what I have learned is there were two or three specific things that do help each individual. The first thing the first thing you need to know to answer that question is to know yourself. Right. So let me give you a clear thing. Some people identify themselves as extroverts, right? They like to be the life of the party, the center of attention. Others would say they classify as introverts. All right. Now, if you yourself are an extrovert, you have to make sure you're not falling into the habit or trap of, as you said earlier, just talking at the expense of not listening. Whereas if you're on the other end of the spectrum, if you're an introvert, it's okay to be reserved. It's okay to be yourself, but you got to realize at certain times you have to turn it up a bit. Like, the quiet mouth isn't the one that always gets the attention. So knowing yourself first, again, that's just a simple example of being an extrovert or introvert. But knowing yourself first and foremost, because that allows you to realize what you yourself have to work on, right? Because you can't know what you need to improve upon if you do not know yourself. How do I go about learning myself? Well, hopefully you get to a point in life where you know what your skill set is, strengths, weaknesses. If you're unsure what those may be, hopefully you have confidants, people you can trust, family, friends to help you with that. So again, first, knowing your part to know to improve. Second, generally speaking, if you're going to be involved in entrepreneurial endeavors, have a pretty good idea about the audience you're going to be addressing. Now, of course, the audiences may change from time to time. And that means you have to change your technique from time to time. But if you're going to be in situations where you're looking to interact with people, it's important to know who and what they are and their interests are as well. And then the third thing very important is knowing the situation. Okay, because every situation is not going to be the same, be it an elevator pitch, all right, be it uh, uh, a boot camp situation, a panel discussion. You have to know the situations because it goes back to the first thing, knowing yourself. There's certain situations where, okay, this isn't going to be my particular brand of beverage, so I may have to like decline this invitation. Or, okay, this is really good for the company, but I'm not the best suited for this. Okay, I'm gonna have to really dig deep and find something deep inside of myself to give the best I can. So again, knowing yourself, because it allows you to know what you have to work on, having a clear understanding of the audiences you're going to be interacting with, because knowing their interests and their needs helps you tell your message, and then the situation as a whole. So these are things any young entrepreneur can really, really benefit from.
Lovely. Excellent. CJ, one personal question to you. Did you ever
Please.
had stage fear in your early days?
Ever. I'd be lying if I said no, because the question is ever. And well, in my early days, or you mean early in life, just in general?
Maybe in your student days, maybe before you ventured into
Uh,
your professional life?
oh, wow. I mean, well, here's the thing. Early in my life, I had a severe stuttering problem, man, and which is not uncommon for many people, especially people who go on to be public speakers. So just talking in general was something I wasn't really too confident in. So overcoming that was something that took a while. And so yes, I would have to say yes, there have been points in time in my life where I wasn't
That was the
really
question. You
confident.
said yes.
Mhm.
You said yes to the
Yes.
stage fear. How did you transform yourself to become a global keynote speaker, a TEDx coach? This is stunning. What was that key thing that you followed, which you want my students also should incorporate in themselves?
Great question. I've always been fortunate to have people in my corner who support me, who love and support me. So having support, people who support you is really important, right? Obviously. And when I say support, I'm not saying always giving you what you want to hear. No, 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 no. People are going to keep you in check even if you're not really where you need to be. Now, I actually had the benefit of co-authoring a book, The Life IPO, co-authored it with Dr. Sam Samang. And one of the chapters I write about is confidence. And what I learned about how confidence works, I have a simple formula for it. It's experience plus success. Because let's say you have what's called quote unquote beginner's luck, if you believe in luck, right? It could instill a false sense of achievement and ability, which becomes hubris. That's not confidence. It could set you up for failure later on in life, right? So early quote unquote success without having some struggle, I don't really count that as confidence. It could be hubris. On the other side of the coin, if you have numerous experiences, but you keep failing, if you're always failing, you're not going to be confident at all. So you need that balance. You need to have the experiences and the successes. So to answer your question succinctly, early when I began really going about this seriously, I actually joined Toastmasters, right? And I put myself in situations which were slightly uncomfortable, and it didn't always go my way, but I had a lot more successes than failures. And the experiences and the successes imbued me with the confidence to think, all right, I can do this. Okay. And if I had a bad day, it's a bad day, learn from the experience and keep going. Because yeah, the thing is to not to give up, put yourself in situations to hopefully succeed, to learn from your missteps, shortcomings, and failures, but to keep at it, to keep at it. Because public speaking is a skill. It is a skill. And even the best at it have off days. And even the really, really polished ones still keep training, keep working. So you never master public speaking. You never master communication. But hopefully you have enough successes, enough experience to have confidence.
Linking the question of what I just asked you, is one of the questions raised by the students, assume that he is going to meet his client or an investor for the very first time. Tomorrow is the big day for him, and that
Mhm.
is his first ever presentation of his life. So
Mhm.
obviously, there is some amount of fear in him. What is that you advise this particular student who's going to give us one of the best presentation for tomorrow? Is there any do's and don'ts that he has to be taken care of?
Yeah, I'm not just here to promote the book, no, but the Life IPO book I co-authored. I have a chapter called "Getting a Grip on Glossophobia," and I talk about a number of the things not to do as well.
Right.
But concisely, well, part of it goes back to the earlier point I made about knowing yourself, and again, the second point of knowing the person. So one thing you definitely do not want to do is to not do your homework. Like this, like for example, you and I went back and forth positively in terms of okay, what to expect from today's session. Okay, is it going to be recorded? Is it going to be an audience? So knowing what you're getting yourself into. If you don't do that, if you don't do your homework, if you don't do your research, you are likely setting yourself up for failure. Right? So is this going to be an aggressive meeting? Is this person you're meeting uh, a fan, a supporter? Knowing this helps you, but it should help you going in. Now, generally speaking, of course you're going to have nerves. You're going to have butterflies. That's natural. If it's your first, if you're young, your first time doing this, don't let the possibility of fear or the energy overwhelm you. So that's my second piece of advice. The first one, do your research and homework. Second, don't let the fear or the energy overwhelm you. And by energy, give you a real clear example. So if I ask you the question, fire, is fire a good thing or is fire a bad thing? Good. How would you answer that question? Is fire a good thing or a bad thing?
Lovely.
Yeah, no. Like, so what would your answer be? Good or bad? Is fire good or bad?
Fire.
Like fire.
That's fire.
Yeah, fire,
Fire. Fire.
fire. Good. Yeah, is fire a good thing or is fire a bad thing?
Mhm. It's good. What do you say?
It's good to pick. Yeah, it's good. But that same fire that warms your home could also burn it down. The same fire that cooks your food could also burn it. Fire is neither good
Okay.
or bad. And at the same time, it is good and bad. It depends on how it's used. And that's the same thing with the energy. So going into a presentation, going to a meeting, you're going to have energy, right? If you let it get the better of you and run over you, then you're in for it. But you have to channel that energy, focus it, realize the objective at hand, the goal and the purpose, and to realize, all right, I'm not gonna let this fire burn me up. I'm gonna put it to work. So yeah, the concisely two things. Know the situation you're getting yourself in beforehand. If you don't do your research and homework, you're setting yourself up for failure. And second, don't let the energy overwhelm
Good. Very true. Lovely. Taking this discussion ahead. Of late, storytelling has been something that I would say the best strategy that the marketers are able to
you. Mhm.
reach out to the clients, the probable clients, and convince them. Storytelling has been quite common these days, and I would say it's people are trying to adapt these storytelling skill sets. So, what, according
Mhm.
to you, how important is storytelling in pitching an idea or your venture to an investor or somebody?
It's extremely important. It's one of the most important things that I try to teach my clients and students, and I'll often set it up with a couple examples. And these are examples I'll pose right now. You don't have to answer aloud, but if the audience members can think about this. If I were to ask you, what's your favorite song? Most people would have some kind of response. If
Mhm.
I ask you, what's your favorite movie or television program or genre of movies, most people have a response. When I ask people, what's your favorite speech? Oftentimes there's consternation or hesitation because for the most part, people don't have favorite speeches. This is what I've learned from doing this for years. The reason why people don't have favorite speeches is on average, speeches are boring, right? Speeches don't engage you. Whereas,
Very true.
whereas songs, movies, these things are stories. Like your average movie, song, TV, it's a story. And the way humans are, we're drawn to stories. Ever since we were children, regardless of cultural background, there are bedtime stories we read to our children. So I think humans are wired to be into stories. And it's easier to take your audience on a journey if you're telling a story. If you're just giving information, facts, figures, numbers, people aren't going to remember that.
Doesn't work.
But if you link your message to a story, Your audience is more inclined to go on a journey with you, to be interested in you, and to remember what it is that you want them to remember. So storytelling is imperative to successful pitching.
Communication also talks about the not just how you speak, but also how you write. I mean, if you're also interacting with your clients through an email,
Mhm.
of course, do you think advent of technology, we have all the AI tools today, has it made our writing skills better, or do you think it has really been a negative, because I'm not using the real creativity over here. I'm just dependent on the softwares to write for me. What do you think as a hardcore communication expert? What is your take on this writing skills plus technology?
Wow, as a quote unquote purist, as I have right here, as I have my pad and pen, right?
See?
The actual art of writing is something that I just happen to like. I just happen to like it. So I would say it's always cool if people can actually write. But as I said about storytelling, right? All right. So I'm from Southern California, and if I may refer to one of the most influential rap groups, and some people may not catch this example, but others will. One of the most influential rap groups in the history of music, known as NWA, right? NWA. The original group consisted of six members. A lot of folks don't know this. Arabian Prince, Eazy-E, the late great Eazy-E, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, MC Ray, DJ Yellow, right? Now, Eazy-E was arguably the most prominent member of the group when they actually were together. The thing is, Eazy-E really he wasn't a rapper. He wasn't a rapper. Ice Cube wrote his raps, and he just was good at delivering them. So I say that to say this, and I recall hearing people say this about NWA. Dr. Dre and Ice Cube said this. At the end of the day, what matters is what comes to the speaker. Like what comes to the speakers. People aren't really going to be too caught up in, okay, did he write his lyrics? Or so at the end of the day, what's happening now is, be it AI, be it AI tools, as a purist, yeah, I want to say you should be able to write your own stuff. But realistically, not everyone's a writer. And at the end of the day, it matters, is the audience getting your message? Be it okay, 50-50 human uh, AI tools. If the AI wrote most of your stuff, wrote the whole thing, all right, yeah, as a purist, okay, yeah, you didn't write your stuff. Hey, but I got that money. Yeah, the pitch worked. Yeah, AI wrote the tools. AI wrote the tools, but the audience received it. So, truth be told, to answer your question in a roundabout way, it doesn't really matter what CJ Marks thinks. It matters more so what the audience, the people you're pitching to. Now, as a purist, yeah, I think you should be able to write. But hey, not everyone's a writer, and whatever gets the job done.
But do you agree if I say this? Natural intelligence is getting depleted because of artificial intelligence.
I ask myself that question on a regular basis, especially as a university
What's the
instructor.
answer that you get?
Yeah, well, I keep asking myself the question, so I haven't gotten it depends on who we're talking about. Situations determine the answer, because sometimes, like, you people don't know what's going on around you. You just relying on AI tools. But other times I realize, okay, it's convenient, and I use AI tools myself, especially if we're operating in a second or third language. So I wouldn't say that AI tools are depleting intelligence. I would argue or say that they're maybe questioning or maybe compromising how we define traditional senses of intelligence. By that, I mean, it takes quite a bit of ingenuity at times to come up with some of the stuff that AI drives people to do, right? And if you're not really skilled with AI tools, the argument can be made that, well, you're not really maximizing your intelligence to learn AI tools. So the concise academic answer could be yes, AI tools are sacrificing or compromising traditional senses of intelligence. But then again, Nothing stays the same, right? Nothing stays the same. So I'm sure the way we eat and prepare our food has evolved or changed over the course of the years. I remember talking about early 1980s, right? Going to Southern California, the microwave, right? Like the micro. Oh my goodness, the microwave. That's it's dangerous. It's radiation. It's not good. It's not a natural way to cook your food. You're hard pressed to find people who actually don't use a microwave these days, right? The same can be said of mobile phones. So AI tools, yeah, they have their purpose, they have their place.
I
Some
mean,
people it is compromising intelligence, other people it's enhancing it.
true that. I mean, I was so happy when you showed me a piece of paper and a pen, which hardly any youngsters I find using them, any pen or a paper, they have always in the technology. Anyways, this
Yeah,
part and parcel, that's how things goes. CJ, you would agree to this point that confidence and communication goes hand in hand. When you're high on confidence, is the statement right? When you're high on confidence, automatically your communication skills also, goes well with your confidence, and you would be able to crack deals. But the confidence is the same thing that lacks for a new entrepreneur who's setting up his venture for the very first time. Any tips and suggestions as to how one can work on improvising his or her confidence?
question. Yeah, confidence is something that I spent a lot of time researching, a lot of time working on. There's some other luminaries in the field who I've collaborated with, incomparable Joyce Santiago Savage. I could be here for days naming people, but what I've come to realize is confidence is not an on and off switch. It's not something that you just have or you don't. Situations can sometimes determine and dictate. They often do. Even myself, depending on who you ask, people will say I'm a masterful communicator in English. In English, you put CJ Marks in a situation where he's asked to communicate in one of the languages I'm supposed to be somewhat over. Actually, no, like Spanish or Japanese. Okay, my confidence shrinks significantly, significantly if I'm asked to do something in Spanish or Japanese. Oh no, the same confident guy in English, things change. So you got to understand, people have to understand that your confidence, it's not all or nothing. I mean, even if you're a confident person, we see it in sports all the time. We see it in sports all the time where a particular athlete own head. Whereas other times you see a person just really rise to the occasion, and having an exceptional game, an exceptional match. So what my point succinctly is all the day. And if you have a day, you have to learn for yourself up too much. As I said earlier, the shortcomings, the missteps, the failures, learn from these. But you got to get back on that proverbial horse and ride. You can't let it debilitate you or cripple you or paralyze you. You got to really so that's where you're going to build confidence. And again, hey, you may have 10 successful goals at it. That 11th one might not be your day. Don't let that undo, the 10 victories just because you got
Do
one
you,
loss. So yeah, confidence isn't all or
do you
nothing.
remember your
Yeah,
first
it comes and
presentation?
goes.
Do you remember the first bigger platform, the first time you're climbing on a bigger platform to deliver your
Oh
remarks?
yeah, I remember all my first experiences. So yeah, if you're talking about like my first junior high school stuff, yeah, my first, yes, concise answer is yes. I remember all of my firsts. Well, I mean, within reason, of course.
Where did you
Yeah,
go
I
on your
did,
confidence
and
that day?
I paused. I'm trying. So which first? Did my first Toastmasters talk? Okay, let's say Toastmasters. I was. It was my first time at a Toastmaster situation, but it was in English. And by that point, I had a pretty good control of just how I communicate. So I was confident that I'd be okay. I didn't get the quote unquote structure right. So there are a number of things I didn't do correctly, but I was confident with the belief that, okay, I could learn the process. Like, that's the thing too, like, you can learn things. Like, you can learn the skills you need to be successful in a certain industry, certain field. And you take your prior life experiences and that builds confidence. This is what I've come to realize. So if you're a new or a young entrepreneur, fresh out of school, what have you, look at the fact that you've actually made it through university, if you chose to graduate or not. Look at the fact that you've come from whatever your individual circumstances are. So myself, now I'll be maybe a bit more vulnerable and honest. Body or in the boardroom, knowing my point of reference in life, I'm like, yo, man, I don't know how many people have had to come go through what I went through early in life, but that in of itself imbued me with confidence. Worst case scenario, what? I mess up a pitch, I mess up a talk. It's not going to be the actual end of my life. No one's going to be physically shooting at me. This isn't a life or death situation. This isn't pressure. Pressure is, having to put food on the table and not knowing where you're going to get the money. I've seen, so at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I may not know yet what this arena is, but given my track record in life, I'll figure it out if I'm so inclined to put the time and energy in. And every young entrepreneur should have that same attitude. Okay, I may be new at this, but I'm not new in life. And given your track record, if you're so inclined to put the time and effort, energy in, you'll figure it out.
Very true. Wow. Now, this is an interesting question, and you absolutely the right person to answer this. Because if I'm right, you're originally from US,
Yes, sir.
you're settled in you're settled in Japan.
Correct.
So yes, what are some of the cultural differences in communication? Especially, if I give you an example of US and Japan and between other countries, what is that cultural differences you see and how you battle it out? How you make sure that, it is not neglected. The cultural
Mm,
differences and the cultural importance is not neglected when you try to communicate with the different parts of the world.
absolutely. Wow. Well, if I try to run through the litany of cultural difference between your average Japanese situation, your average US situation, we'd be here for a while. But concisely, and the simple answer is generally speaking, of course, just because, individual situations may be different, but generally speaking, your average US audience, American audience, American in particular, or American in general, is going to be more individual minded. I mean, it's just it's how we are. I mean, even if you love your family, you love your friends, yeah, but you're still America's again, comparing the U.S. to Japan, America's a lot more individualistic, a lot more aggressive. It's you really got to be out there for thinking about what you are oftentimes the point of reference for what's going on. Whereas in Japan, it is a collective group. That is
Right.
really what's really put. I mean, so let me give you one example and then one story. The example is how we write our names, right? As a U.S. citizen, for the most part, it's first name, last name. Like, that's how we write. C.J. Marks, C.J. Marks. Whereas in Japan, it's the family name first, right? It's putting the family first, and it's the case in other cultures as well. So it's the collective that is oftentimes the preeminent, predominant thing. And the story, I remember when I first began teaching in
I
Japan, this is
just
many, many years ago.
sorry to interrupt
Mhm.
here. I just want to have, I had this question long back in my mind. I wanted this. When you say people prefer to call your first name first and the second name first at times, as you give an example,
Mhm.
if I'm writing an email to or I'm addressing a Japanese, so I would call you as Mr. Marx first, right? Now,
Absolutely.
how do you think? if there is a change, interchange, how do people take this? That was my ultimate, question I always had in my mind. If I am not aware about the cultural thing, and I call you by first names first or second name first, whatever, how do you take it? I mean, if I'm
Oh,
not called you right, how do you take it?
my experience is generally speaking, again, I can't speak for every single individual, but generally speaking, if you're so, I'm gonna take the question in the context of you're a non-Japanese person engaging with a person in Japan. If you're a non-Japanese person engaging with a person in Japan and they know this, your average Japanese isn't going to be offended because they realize, oh, this person doesn't know what she or he's doing. Like, they don't understand. If a Japanese citizen were to address another Japanese citizen off the bat first name, that whoa, okay, you're okay. That's going to be an issue. Like that's a problem. Again, ignorance, not knowing something, I mean, you get a pass. But if you know how things are, like I show up to a meeting, first time meeting with these people, I happen to be Japanese, or if I've lived in Japan for quite some time and I come off the bat calling somebody their first name, nah, man, that's not gonna work out. Yeah. Um, but yeah, if I may, yeah. If you're generally ignorant to the situation or you're non-Japanese, you may get a pass. If you're supposed to be well versed in the situation or you are Japanese, nah, you got to be careful with that. It's not gonna work out. So back to the story. So when I first began teaching in Japan many, many years ago, right, I'm at a high school, and I recall asking a student a question. Right? She was a young lady. I had the whole class stand up, and I asked, "Hey, hey Megumi, what do you think?" And Megumi she looked like a deer in headlights. She looked to talk to her friend. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Keep in mind, I'm new to Japan, right? This is many years ago. I'm like, no, 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 Megumi, I'm not asking about what your friend, I'm asking what do you think? And it wasn't just her, but the entire class and even the teacher I was teaching with, they looked at me like, yo, man, is this guy crazy? And the teacher that told me, CJ, we don't really do that. I mean, what do you mean? You don't really ask one person what they think and don't allow them to, get a consensus of their group. I'm like, no, that's not how we teach. In the US, that's how, you have to have your own opinion, identity, what have you. But in Japan, yeah, singling someone out and putting them on the spot for their opinion or idea and making them feel uncomfortable by not being able to get a consensus, that's not what you do. Another clear thing is it takes a while to get decisions done in Japan because everybody has to have meetings and everybody has to be on the same page. Generally speaking, I mean, I don't have a scientific thing to present to you now, but I've come to realize it takes like 4 to 5 meetings to get done in Japan, what it would take 1 or 2 meetings to get in North America or European countries. It just takes a lot longer because everyone has to be on the same page. So yeah, concise answer to the original question. The US is a lot more individualistic, a lot more individual, and Japan is definitely about the collective society.
Do you had any cultural shock when you moved from US to Japan in the initial stages, especially from the communication front?
Yeah, man. I mean, of course, from the communication front, just the linguistic stuff, but it's just, I mean, it's really different. Not better, not worse, not right. It's just different. So, uh, shock. I mean, it came in stages. It still happens, man. Like there's still stuff I'm like, yo, man, this is like I step outside of myself at least once a week and realize, yo, man, this is Japan. It's just really it's different. I mean, I can't begin to talk about the differences between Japan and keep in mind when I first moved to Japan, I was countryside, right? I'm from San Diego, California. San Diego's an actual city. And so living in countryside Japan was just like, yo, that's wild. It's just so many things. Concise answer is yes. There were a lot of differences, cultural shocks when I first moved out here.
Well, I remember, we teach a lot of examples from Japan. Japan has some unique culture and the way of doing things. I do remember during my school days as well, my teachers used to quote a lot of examples from Japan, especially
Mhm.
from the education front. So if I have this question, what can Indian students learn from Japanese communication styles? Which you think it's the best and which can be incorporated by the Indian students as well? What is your answer?
Wow. Well, okay. Just keep in mind, I have not lived in India. No, actually, I've yet to visit India. So I know a number of Indians, but I I don't
Okay,
want to
can we
come
call
off
it
as being
as
no, no, no. But yeah, yeah. So
South
what I
Asians?
would say, I think what a number of non-East Asian cultures can
Right,
learn from Japan is the earlier point of getting a consensus of the group. Now, again, not, I'm inclined, I can't speak to Indian culture particularly. I don't know how much, but from my experiences, it's not as collective as Japan is, but a few places are. And this is what I've learned. Again, being from the US, it initially is well, okay, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Then I had to realize, you know what, man? Maybe it's not always about you. Maybe it is about what's best for the particular group. Maybe I could learn a bit more about thinking about, trying to get as close to a harmonious answer as possible. Now, you're not going to get every single person to agree, but realizing that at least make the time and effort to hear everyone's voice and specifically realizing not everyone's going to have the same level of confidence and the same willingness to want to voice their opinion. So to seek out, okay, you know what? I noticed this person in the back hasn't really said a word all day. I got to make sure I bring her or him into the conversation to get their opinion. So I think non-Japanese citizens really learn that from what I've learned in Japan is just to, make more of an effort to make sure you get as much of a consensus or to hear as many voices in the room as is feasible,
right.
if it's feasible.
If it's feasible. You will agree with this. Entrepreneurial journey is always about ups and downs. I mean, as a founder, as a
Oh, yes.
leader, you would definitely see some good days, some bad days. But irrespective of those days, whether good or bad, you need to follow a standard communication policy when you interact with your clients or stakeholders or even your employees. So, what do you think how the leader should manage their communication style, no matter whether the day is going good or the day is going bad?
Mm. Well, one of the things that I've been recently reminded of as I recently took the role of president of Trilexa, and yeah, recent meeting earlier this year, as we sit here, it's April 1st, 2026, and I took this position 2 months ago, if that. And I was reminded of the fact that in any position you have as a leader, in any position you have, even if you're not in a quote unquote leadership position, you have to be consistent. That's one of the biggest things. I think you have to be consistent. If you have people who are looking to you for answers, you can't change every day. You can't change every hour. Now, of course, information may affect your decision making, and whatever the answer to the question yesterday may be different due to new information. But in
Yes.
terms of who you are as a person and how you communicate these things, you got to be consistent. Like if you're a hard ass son of a bee, if you're a jerk, hey, be that jerk every day. If you're a softy teddy bear, hey, be that. But you owe it to the people in your charge to be consistent. You can't be wishy-washy, flip-flopping. Like one day you're a nice person, the other day you're a jerk. Be consistent with yourself and the team. Really important.
Yes, absolutely. So far, we had a great touch points on the verbal communication. How do you think non-verbal communication and its importance in a business organization?
You broke up me a little bit. So how do I think it, and I lost you. How do I think it
Non non-verbal, the non-verbal
nonverbal?
communication, or yeah, importance of that in a business organization.
Oh, it's extremely important.
Yeah.
Just as, if not more important than verbal communication. There are some situations where I've seen slight, what at the time seemed like slight inappropriate nonverbal things wreck a whole meeting. I mean, just like, oh no, why did that person do that? And these are things that need to be learned. Like, so if you're going to, especially cross-cultural situation, gotta know some of the things to do, not to do. One clear example being in India, like showing the bottoms of your feet, right? It's like crossing your legs, for example. Like in some, like as I'm doing it, you can't like if you cross your legs in some cultures, it's just crossing your legs. In some situations, like you're actually showing the bottom of the soles of your feet to that person over there. That's offensive. That's a big no-no. So knowing these, and also just like this, like just if you're closed off, if you're like this, that just make that hey, that's just how I'm sitting. That's just but some people would interpret that as being, okay, you're closed, arms crossed. Uh,
These happens knowingly or unknowingly.
well, you have to know that. Oh, so I'm sorry. So I think people have unknowingly made these mistakes, right? And again,
Yeah.
that comes down to knowing yourself, like my earlier point. I myself had to learn these things too, in terms of like when I'm talking with someone, to look them in the eyes. So eye contact too is a big one too. If you're too much into like this could be intimidating. Now, of course, I'm over exaggerating, but some people can't take eye contact. In Japan, too much eye contact, no, you're intimidating somebody. Whereas in contrast, if you can't make eye contact, if you're constantly looking around, it's like, yo, is this person suspicious? Like, so knowing the balance, like so you gotta know yourself. Okay, if I have an issue making eye contact with people, I gotta make a concerted effort to make eye contact. Or other end, if I'm that person who's always here, I could be a little potentially aggressive in some close situations. So knowing yourself, knowing if you have certain tendencies or things that could maybe be misinterpreted, and to the best of your ability, if you don't want to mess up the deal or mess up a potential opportunity, make the proper adjustments. Again, keeping your audience in mind to make sure your non-verbal communication cues do not sabotage you.
Lovely. The third point after non-verbal, something that is very much happening these days is a digital communication. And because of digital communication, I
Mm.
was able to get in touch with you, and today it's all happening here.
Mhm.
So, what role does digital communications like emails, LinkedIn, virtual meetings like this play a role in modern entrepreneurship?
It's everything. Well,
It's
to an
everything.
extent, I mean, it can't define everything, so I should choose my words more carefully. Yet, in the 21st century, 2026, if you're not making an effort to be able to communicate with people digitally, you're not really making an effort at all, are you? Like you're not, and that's part of what I'm doing, in my current role with Trelexa. We actually recently, just this past week, released an app, and I'll share the information with you and your team, Guru, that allows people to be more competent and efficient, effective communicators. Because there's so many platforms, and even geographically, like what's the predominant platform can change. I'm sure there are certain things going on in India that just aren't here in Japan. Are there certain platforms, like for example, LinkedIn? LinkedIn isn't really as popular in Japan
Mhm.
as I think it could be, should be. People still use Facebook for professional
Okay.
networking, right? It's just different. So knowing where you're at. So anyway, to answer your question, you have to make some kind of an effort to be on digital platforms. If nothing else, we should have learned this from the, the 2020 period, the whole COVID situation. I mean, not not having some sort of basic digital communicative skills, you're not going to be any kind of entrepreneur. I mean, as I showed you, I have this right here, my pen and pad. Right over here. I got this still right here, right? I got the phone. So you have to have some kind of digital competency. Otherwise, you're not going to go too far as an entrepreneur. Or if you don't have those skills, and if you don't want to put the time in to learn, have someone on your team who does have those skills. Hire somebody. You utilize Trelexa services, but you're not going to be a successful entrepreneur without something
True. I
digital.
agree. I agree. Another buzzword that we quite a lot of times we speak is the brand. everyone today is on the verge of creating a brand for their venture or creating their own personal brand. So, how can entrepreneurs build a strong personal brand through communication?
How? Okay, so I'm actually going to again speak to things I spoke about earlier. Again, knowing yourself and then being consistent because your
Mhm.
brand has to be consistent. Of course, it could change with the times, but the actual integral core of what you are needs to be consistent. And so that's first. Like identify what you are, what your company is, what do they stand for, what's the brand you want to build, right? It's not a good idea to build a house on quicksand. Not a good idea, all right? The foundation is not solid. So make sure your foundation's strong. Principles, morals, what do we stand for? What are we consistent on? That's first and foremost. And then how to go about building your actual brand is just to work, be it digital tools, AI tools, uh, especially in 2026 moving forward. It's very competitive. How do you go out there and really stand out from the crowd? So knowing how to go about it, knowing the tools you need for your regional market, and if you're looking to be a little bit more than regional, national, international, global. So knowing the tools and how to utilize them, that's an imperative to not just building a brand, but building a brand that people can trust.
Okay, perfect. Well, we are almost on the fag end of the session. I didn't even realize how the time went. And
Yeah,
thanks
it
for
went
you.
fast.
Thanks for you for the wonderful interaction that we had. But I must take this last question, very, very important question from the student's point of view. Finally, what one communication habit would you strongly recommend our students should start practicing from today?
That's easy. Well, okay, my answer is one of the words in the question, to practice, like to actually practice. I mean, be it sports, be it music, be it cooking, be it dancing, be whatever, you're not going to become better if you do not practice.
Practice
Put the
makes man
time in.
perfect.
Yeah, you put the time in. And even you may not reach perfection, but you get darn close. You're not going to be able to just roll out of bed and just be successful at something you've never practiced. So be it if you're looking to improve yourself as a writer, without AI tools, you got to write more. If you're looking to improve yourself as an oral communicator, orally, so you got to practice whatever skills it is you think you're lacking or whatever it is you want to improve. You have to put the time in and practice. And practicing doesn't mean, okay, I'll just get it right when the actual opportunity comes up. No, 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 no. You have to prepare for that opportunity and put the proper practice in. It's essential to success.
That's great. Lovely. So, wow, I think session that is 100% fulfilled. So, it's indeed a pleasure and honor. I knew this. I was very optimistic the day I'm in touch with you, the
Oh
way
yeah.
we interacted about this particular session. That really shows seriousness from both the ends because both of us did not do for the sake of doing. We had a clear intention in our mind. We had a clear objective. My students watching you, definitely. I mean, what expectation they had before this session. Well, I wanted to keep it as a secret, but I don't want to. How about this? We're all set for your next session, which is on the live IPO. You want to give some opening remarks before we get into that?
No, I mean, again, this is the first of things to come. So I have complete confidence and trust that we're gonna communicate. We'll be in touch. So I mean, the Life 5 is a book. You can pick it up. But before talking about Life 5, I'm just gonna recommend Trelexa, and I'll make sure I get the information to you. So we're actually having, as I said earlier, we actually recently came up with an app, and we're trying to empower people to actually go out there and to to be an authority in terms of making their brand, making themselves an authority if they so so choose to do that. So in terms of using proper how to use AI tools, how to go out there and market yourself, promote yourself, Trillex is a place for that. The Life IPO is helping to empower people more in terms of giving them the confidence to take their life public, to use in an entrepreneurial sense, right? I mean, you spend time building your brand, building your business, but eventually you want to go public. That's what the money, the success is. So making sure you have the skills for that. So yeah, again, as you know, Guru, this is the first of more to come. We're going to have at least two, maybe three more sessions together, helping to make people better. And I'm looking forward to where we're going with together with this. GIBS, Trillexa, Guru, CJ Marks. Let's do more, man. Let's do
Lovely.
more.
I'm equally excited for your next session on this. I hope my students as well. I think we will take up the conversations and let's plan it accordingly and we'll find out the right time to pitch in for this session. As I said, I'm all
Absolutely.
excited. Very well. So, yes, we are coming to an end of a wonderful interaction with my good friend, Mr. CJ Marks. It was lovely interacting with him on the topic which he talks day in, day out. So, my efforts in reaching out to him and convincing him for this topic really worked. So, you also appreciate my communication skill to some extent?
Absolutely. Yeah. It wasn't really about convincing. It was just working out the time difference. Because again, just yeah, India's always interesting because it's a 3.5 hour time difference between
Yeah.
Japan. So it was just coming up with
Well,
a date and
I,
let my thank
I
you.
really appreciate
Again.
I really appreciate it. It's almost
No,
what time
I
there now? In
mean,
Japan, it's
yeah,
8 o'clock.
it's not super late. I mean, it's 8
Wow.
p.m., but you know,
Yeah.
it's the family time, but it's we're straight,
It's
we're
your
good.
personal time, it's your family time, and you still accepted this and dedicated your time for my students. Hats off. Thank you so much. On
I
behalf of
love
all the
this.
students out here, all the faculties out here, and the management, on behalf of the entire GIBS fraternity, I extend my heartfelt thanks to you for this incredible interaction. I thoroughly enjoyed, so my students, and very soon this will also be uploaded in my official YouTube channel as well, and will also be circulating it nationwide because the topic of these things has to be reached to the masses. So, education is all about sharing. Sharing is caring. So it is, I don't want this to be restricted to our students alone. This has to reach to the students fraternity of the whole nation. We would be doing that very, very soon. So once again, CJ, thank you so much. It was indeed a pleasure interacting with you. Before signing off, do you want to give your closing remarks to my students and your best wishes to my students?
Simply put, thank you very, very much for the opportunity. Again, I was honored, humbled, grateful. Thank you, and you're welcome. We'll see you soon.
Lovely. Thank you so much. So, for those who have not yet subscribed, the ones who are joining away from the GIBS, we can still subscribe us at various social media platform, GIBS IRE Talks, GIBS Business School. And my personal request to all of you, please do follow Mr. CJ Marks on the LinkedIn. I mean, his work is incredible. That itself is like a textbook for all of us. So, yep, this is my final message to all of you. But otherwise, thanks everyone for your patience listening. This is Guru Prasad signing off. Thank you for watching.